Welcome to the reading of Turning 25 on my 52nd birthday. This is a story of my life right after my divorce as I grew into a new woman. Please comment any questions on the video below. I'll get back to them as soon as I can. And thank you so much. Please like and subscribe also. Thanks. Time for chapter 13. Veronica got home and poured a glass of wine. She didn't know whether she was excited about what had just happened or was she feeling like a toy. But she wanted him to want her. How many other women had he done that with? Or was she the first? She wanted to be the first for something, but that probably wasn't going to happen because he's quite the player. She turned on music to try to take her mind off of what happened that day. She was on her second glass of wine before she knew it. She was crying. Not just tears, downright sobbing. What was she letting happen to her? She sat down on the floor. Her knees were up to her chest, arms wrapped around her legs. She wanted to have everything just as tight as possible. She was in a ball. The tears were not going to stop anytime soon. She was crying so hard she couldn't catch her breath. There was no stopping herself. She wanted someone to hold her, and at the same time, she didn't want anyone to see her like this. If someone was there, she probably wouldn't be able to cry like this. Was that a good thing? Did she truly need this? The crying, the emotion, the man? How many times was she going to break down? Was she even going to be okay? She did not feel like she was. That was kept her going back to Rick. She felt needed. Not wanted, but needed. He didn't want her. He was just using her as convenience. He only wanted to be with her when it was convenient for him. Everything about what they were doing was about him. He didn't want her giving him a blowjob today. He wanted her to leave work and meet him on his lunch hour to give him a blowjob. He didn't care who it was. He knew she would sacrifice herself for sex with him, or not sex in this case, just pleasing him. She was just fooling herself and believing that she actually had anything to do with this. She cried for at least an hour. Her eyes were swollen, her nose was red. She was a wreck. She drank the entire bottle of wine. She got into bed about 11, and she couldn't fall asleep. Her mind would not shut off. Before she knew it, her alarm sounded, and it was time to wake up. She really needed to let Rick know that she just felt used. How this whole thing was just so one-sided. She did have the strength. Did she have the strength to confront him? Could she even bring this up to him? It was Thursday, and she knew she wouldn't see him over the weekend. So she thought that she had to get to his house today or tomorrow. The day was kind of hectic. She wanted to find time to send him a text to see if they could see each other that night or tomorrow. She did not have an opportunity to talk. She went and grabbed a bite to eat, but she could not even finish her meal. Her appetite was going away. The anxiety of this mess was really taking over. She was now finding it hard to eat. How could she just continue letting this happen? She only had one glass of wine. She didn't want to have another emotional night. She made a firm decision that she would talk to him tomorrow. She absolutely could not let this go. If she had to leave work early, she would. This was important to her. When she woke up the next day, she showered and dressed. She took a long look at herself in the mirror. She had to make sure she was confident today. She got to the office. She was working in a conference room. She texted Rick asking if she could meet him tonight. He said that he was going to be down in Denver and they could meet for lunch. She was meeting him in around 10 minutes, and in her mind she took a deep breath. She took off to the restaurant they decided to meet at. She started by saying that she really enjoyed their time together. Then she said that she felt like things were a little bit one-sided. She did not regret them being together. She didn't like the fact that it felt very one-sided though, specifically her leaving work to give him a blowjob. Also, she wanted more. He responded with, "Well, I'm glad you don't regret anything." But then he said, "It seems that maybe you should get a toy. Maybe that will take care of you more regularly." She responded, "I need a man. I have spent the last 10 years with a toy." She started to feel really defensive. He told her that it was hard for him to find time. He had the kids and his parents to deal with on occasion. The conversation did finally turn that he did agree that it was one-sided and he kind of would owe her. That would have to make up for it at some point. He did have his kids for a couple of weeks, so she knew she wouldn't see him for a while. They ended their conversation discussing work and personal things. He seemed to have something of a smirk during their conversation. almost like he was enjoying seeing her squirm. She was never sure what the hell he was thinking. Now, I will say that conversation was very hard. During my marriage, the last probably half of my marriage, I really didn't, I didn't confront my ex because it always ended in an argument and he would always have to be right, and it just got so exhausting that I didn't ever bring it up. So for me to come up to him and say I needed to talk to him and then follow through with it, I was pretty proud of myself. That was a big step. I will say though that, the crying thing too was really hard. I almost started crying when I was reading this because it really felt like during those times that I wasn't going to even, make it through the crying. It was so deep and heavy. It was really those cries were really hard on me. I wasn't used to crying. So that's kind of how I felt about that chapter. So I'll talk to you soon.